Hey, and welcome to this lesson video about factoring by grouping. Our learning target, obviously, to factor a polynomial with 4 terms by grouping. Now, the key word in there is 4 terms. That's kind of the giveaway that you know you're doing grouping. So if you look at this kind of generic form, we've got x cubed, x squared, x, and then some constant d. Okay, but you can see that there are 4 terms. That's when you know to group, like I said. So our first example, let's actually factor one of these guys. The name kind of gives it away. The first step to do is to group. I mean, factor by grouping, we should probably group, huh? Now, make sure that there's always a plus sign in between your 2 groups. Now, we'll see some examples. You might have to write it by hand. That's okay. Okay, so maybe I'll write some quick notes by the side. The first thing you want to do is to group. Now, remember we've talked about the GCF, greatest common factor, before. We're going to find the GCF of both groups and factor it out. So we're going to factor out. So in that first group, let's start with the numbers first, 8 and 64. What is the biggest number that divides them both? Well, that would be an 8. Okay, so here's what I'm doing. I'm trying to figure out what I can take away from both of those first 2 terms. I can divide out an 8. Now the first one has 3 r's and the second term has 2 r's. So I could take away 2 r's from both of them, r squared. And now inside, let's talk about what would be left. So the 8 divides out. I took away 2 of his r's, so he only has a single r left. 64 divided by 8, I would have an 8 left, but his 2 r's I took away. So that's all he has is r minus 8 left inside. Now, I look at this second group and I kind of want to do the same thing. Okay, what can I take away from r and 8? Well, shoot, there's not a number that divides them other than 1, and both of them don't have an r. So what do? Well, if a 1's all they share, that's all they've got. So put a 1 out there. And that 1 isn't going to change the r minus 8. Divide anything by 1, it stays itself. So, final answer here. What we need to do, we are going to have 2 groups that are multiplied. So 2 parentheses butted up. That's going to be our answer. And here's how this is going to work. The stuff that we took outside, the 8r squared, we're going to put that in a group. And we're going to smush it together with the plus 1 that we took out. And then those r minus 8s, that's going to make up the second group, just one of them. Okay? And that would be my factored answer. So that's how we factor by grouping. Let's look at another one. Okay, so again, I need to group first. So group my first 2 things. My last 2 things, remember, I always want a plus sign in the middle. So, oh yeah, there's a plus sign in there. Perfect. And here's what I'm trying to figure out. From the first group, what can I take away from both? So 25 and 5. Oh, they both are divisible by a 5. He's got 3 v's. The second term's got 2 v's. So I can take 2 v's away from each. So v squared. So what would I have left? Divide 25 by 5 and I'd have a 5. If I take away 2 of that guy's v's, he'd have 1 left. But hold up, I took the 5 and the 2 v's away from this guy. That took away everything from him. Well, remember in class we talked about you've got to save his place in line. Kind of like when you go to a roller coaster and you got to really go to the bathroom so you have a friend stay in line for you while you're waiting to get on a ride. We've got to hold the place for that term. And we fill that, to do that, we fill that with a 1. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing with the second group. 30 and 6, what will divide them both? The biggest, a 3 divides them both, but the biggest would be a 6. Now, do they both have a v? No. So a positive 6 is what they share. So when I divide, 30 divided by 6, I'd leave 5v plus 6 divided by 6 would leave me with a 1. Okay? Now, I don't remember. I might have kind of skipped over this on that last one. This should always happen. these groups should always be the same after you factor out your GCF. If not, then you know you've messed up. So they were the same on the last one. They're the same on this one, so I know I'm in good shape, and I'm actually ready for my final answer. The two groups where the stuff on the outside kind of gets smooshed together to make a group. And then whatever was highlighted, that makes another group. Okay, so there would be my factored answer. All right, let's look at another one. Okay, so I'm still grouping. So my first step would be to group the first two things, but wait a second. Remember, I always need a plus in the middle. So what am I gonna do? Oh, I'm gonna have to write one here. Okay, so we're thinking of 30 as being a negative number, and I have to write my own plus sign, but that's okay. Uh-oh, and I see a typo. Yikes. Oops, that R should have been an X. Sorry about that. Okay, so here I'm ready to go. Oop, maybe my computer's ready. Here we go. What can I take away from the first group? Well, they both have a 2 that I can divide out. 3 x's, 2 x's. Oh, I can take an x squared away from both of them. 12 divided by the 2 I take out would leave me with a 6. And he would have 1 x left in that first guy. Plus, oh, here's another one of those where we take everything away. The 2 and the x squared. So we got to save his place with the 1. Okay, save his place in line. Now notice this 6 and this 1 are positive, okay? And I say that because I'm trying to think ahead to what's coming up. I've got 30 and 5. Well, I know they both are divisible by a 5. However, if these two groups are supposed to be the same, all of this stuff's positive. All of this stuff's negative. So factor out a negative 5. And then that would give me, when I divide negative 30 by a negative 5, a positive 6. Negative 5 divided by negative 5, a positive 1. Okay? So that just kind of helped me assure that these guys were the same by doing that little trick with that negative sign. Okay? Because that has to happen. So I'm going to have two groups. The 2x squared and the minus 5 we're going to put together in a group. And then the 6x plus 1 in a group. Okay? And that would be my factored answer. All right, hopefully you're catching on. I've got one more for you for this video. Okay, here's my expression. Whoa, those are some big numbers. I need to grab my calculator real quick. Maybe I can do it in my head. We'll see. Again, oh snap, I'm gonna have to put my own plus sign in there. Doggone it. Okay. Well, let's see. What can I take away from those first two guys? 63 and 24. Well, I know 63 is 7 and 9. And 24, well, there's a bunch of factors. Let's look. 9 is 3 and 3. So is there a factor of a 3 and 24? 3 and 8. Okay, so they both share a 3. I think that's all they share. So the greatest number I can take out is a 3. And then they both have 2 n's, so I would take out n squared. So what would I be left with? Well, 63 divided by 3, would be a 21, and he would have an n left over. And then this last guy, he would have an 8 and no n, because we took away both of his n's. Okay. Negative 105 and negative 90. Man, these are big numbers. Let's see. I'm thinking probably just a 5. But it needs to be negative, because they're both negatives. Okay, so negative 105 divided by a negative 5 would give me a 21. And, hang on, I actually think I have a typo on this one. So let me change this to a 4. I think I wanted 40 instead of 90. I probably couldn't read my own writing. Whoops. So, negative 40 divided by negative 5. Then I would get a positive 8. Okay, so then my two groups are the same. Okay, and so my final answer, my two parentheses butted up against each other. Okay, two groups being multiplied. The stuff on the outside, okay, gets smushed together, if you will, into a group. And then whatever was highlighted, that 21n plus an 8. Okay. All right, so that's it for our factor by grouping method. Hopefully you've kind of caught on to the process. I will see you next time. Keep learning and have fun.